and thank you, Arif, Satar, and alumni of NEDA-DC. Thank you for inviting me, and it's a real pleasure to speak to the young graduates as well as some of the faculty members over there. Today, what we're going to talk, and let me tell you what we're going to do today. We're going to give you a brief description about project management. And it is a three-part series. And this is the first part. And in this one, we're going to consider and give you a basic about arts and the science of the project management. While we are conducting this thing, and you will going to have several questions, I won't mind having those questions in between, but if you guys can wait and have all your questions ready at the end of the presentation, then it would be much easier for me to answer each one of them very in detail. So wait for the question, but if you can't, that's fine too. Just raise your hand, I'll stop. I can see almost every one of you. I think Dr. Afzal Haq is there. I think I can recognize Dr. Afzal Haq. Yes, he is there. So let's start. What we're going to do today in the first series, in the first part, is to give you a brief introduction of project management. Just by raise your hand on the undergrad side, the students who are there, if you can let me know how many of you have heard the name or have done something in this area before you come to this class. Just raise your hand if you have ever heard the name project management. Okay, 1, 2. All right, this will be good for you guys then. What are we going to do today? We're going to basically start with some basic definitions. We're going to start with the basic definition of what is a project, what is program and project, how is the project management done, what is a project life cycle, and what is the art of project management. The science we will cover in the next class. Let's start with the basic definition. Now, in the real world, when we do certain work, our work can be a routine work, a non-routine work. That is something that you have to perform, and you have a certain time to do it. One of the biggest challenges is how do you going to perform that work so that it can satisfy certain needs. So we define a project as a complex, non-routine, one-time effort. That is something that you have not done before. As a very simple example, if you are in your final years, you all have to do your final projects. Now, final project is like a project in which you have to complete a complex, non-routine because you have not done it before. It's a one-time effort because you're going to only do it in the final year. It has a very limited time. That is, you have to start at the start of the final year and then end before your exams or just after the exam. It has a very limited resources or budget. And finally, you have to perform based on certain customer needs. In most cases, these customer needs are coming directly from your sponsors. For example, in the final year project, as I was giving you example, it is directly coming from the chairman of your department and the faculty member of the department. They are telling you what they want to see as a project deliverable, what they want to see as a specification of these projects. So we define a project as a complex, non-routine, one-time effort task that is required to ensure that the project or the task can be done in a limited time within the budget and the resources and can perform a particular customer need. So a project, if I define it in a bigger way, it will be treated as a series of activities and tasks. So everything that you perform, either operation or your assignment, for example, if you are planning to finish up your assignment, you are given an assignment on a particular day, and then you are asked to finish it up X number of questions at a particular time. So what you have to do is you have to line up yourself so that you are ready to perform that task. So a project basically is considered to be a series of activities and tasks that all the time have a very specified objective. That a specified objective need to be completed within a certain specification. So for example, you can say that I want to build a house. Now building a house is a project because every time you build a house, one house will be different from the other. There are certain tasks which are similar, but almost all of them are different houses. You have a particular specification over here that say that, I want to have a 5-bedroom house, I want to have a 2-storied house, I want to have a house which have a garden and stuff like those. Those are your specifications. All the projects have, when we are talking about these activities, do have certain things known as start and end dates. There is no unlimited time available for you to finish up a project or start a project. So you need to have a very specific start date and an end date. Next very important thing is the funding. Again, there is no unlimited budget for anything. There is no unlimited money available. So your funding are limited. And finally, in all the projects, remember this, in all the projects you have to consume resources. That is, you have to somehow or the other consume the resources which are your equipment, which are your people, which are your money. So all these has to be consumed. I'm pretty much sure if I'm not seeing the video from the Karachi side, so I'm not sure is it only the video or you guys can still hear me clearly. Can just somebody tell me that you guys are hearing me clearly? Oh, all right. Thank you. Got it. So we also define a project in a typical way of a cross that require a cooperation between all parts of the organization. So what we call as across the organizational participation is needed in order to perform a task. Remember, a project will have several tasks. For example, as I was giving you an example of the house, a house will require you to contact an architect, will require you to have a connection with a what we call as the contractor over there. Then we have to have a civil engineer, structural engineers. These are people who are going to participate in projects. And when they are going to participate, they are all come from across the organization. This means that they are coming from various parts of the organization, or they are coming from various sects of the organization, or they are coming from various parts of the organization. The beauty of this thing is that they are bringing an individual or a separate skill set. So each one of them is bringing a different skill set. And because of this blend of skill set that comes from across the organization, the project will have all the skills needed to perform. Now, in order for a project, it also involves something that has never been done before, as I repeated before this scenario. Similarly, the cost, time, and performance requirements will always have to be considered. And we're going to cover in this section what and how cost and timing, how the cost and timing affect the performance of the project. One of the things which we keep talking about when we talk about project, and people have a very big concept about project, and they keep saying, okay, project is nothing no more different what we call as the operations or what we call as the routine work. Now I'm trying to define you what is a routine work over here and what is a project. So for example, when you are in a class and you are taking notes, you taking notes basically is a routine work, is a repetitive work that you have to do in various classes. What will make it a project will be you writing a term paper, you writing a final assignment for a particular class. That will be your project. The other example over here is daily entering of the sale receipt into an account ledger. That is, you are in a business and every day you have certain sales going on. You have to put down all the sales receipts in your accounting system. Now that is a routine job. However, if somebody asks you to create a sale kiosk for a professional accounting meeting, that will be a project. Somebody have to really create that thing. Another simple example that a lot of people will understand what is the difference between a repetitive work and a project is, let's say you are trying to scale on a piano. You're trying to make a tune. But scaling a piano is a repetitive work. However, when you write a new piano piece, that's a brand new project. One other example over here is a routine manufacturing of an Apple iPod or iPad. Now, that is a routine job. Somebody in China must be cranking out daily multiple numbers of iPad and iPods. However, when you take this thing and say, I want to create an iPod which is approximately 2 by 4 inch long, can interface with PC and can store, let's say, 10,000 or a million songs, that is now a unique project. Somebody has to really understand how to create that particular type of a device, which we will going to say that will be named as iPod. So an iPod in this scenario will become a non-routine job, non-routine activity, and that's why it becomes a project. So a difference between a routine work and a project is very obvious. A routine work will be done day in and day out. However, a project will be done once in a lifetime type of scenario. Once you are done with a particular type of project, you will move on to a different project. Next, we'll define that is a very common misconception about program and project. What is a program and what is a project? As we have defined the difference between the project as well as a routine job, you will see that the routine job is a part of a very, very minute operational activity. However, a program versus project, a program is defined as a series of multiple projects that are combined together. So what you are doing, you are taking multiple projects and you are combining them together over an extended period of time. And again, idea is same. Idea is same to achieve a common goal. And once all these projects are put together, they are defined as a program. So a program is basically a high-level group of projects. Given the example over here, a program will be like, if you are taking a course in project management, for example, that is a project. That once you have taken all the courses required, then you get a degree that will become your program. So if somebody is in mechanical engineering and they are starting their first year, and in the first year you're going to take several courses, let's say engineering, you will be taking engineering drawing, you'll be taking engineering mechanics. So these are individual courses. So you can think of these individual courses as project. Once you have completed all the projects, that is all the courses that are needed for the program, you are then going to get a degree in mechanical engineering. So a program in this case will be a higher level. So if you look at this diagram, it will see that the program is on a higher level. So program will consist of many projects. So remember this, a program will carry on many projects. However, from here onward, you're going to define what are the different type of projects. So there are basically 4 different types of projects. The first one is known as the individual project. An individual project is a project in which a single person or a group of persons will going to indulge themselves for a short duration of time to complete a project. And so it will be a very short duration thing that they have to complete on. Usually this is a one-person project. Occasionally you're going to have 2 or 3 people involved in completing it. The best example of this is for the engineering student, it will be your capstone or the final year project. It's an individual thing. A staff project is basically assigned to a particular organization or unit or a department. For example, if you are going to say that on our in the Karachi we have a shipyard and we want to extend the shipyard. We want to extend a particular portion of the shipyard. So instead of getting in, let's say, 100 ships in a day, we can double the size, double the capacity of it. So we can get 200. Now there will be multiple people, multiple organizations, especially the Karachi shipyard, will be get involved in creating a project so that this project, which will be the extension of the dockyard, will take place. Similarly, you want to say that in the university we want to create a new department. Now, creating a new department will require you to create a team of staff members who will come from various parts of the organization, and then they will going to use this example for. Then you could use this example to extend on a particular specification that you want to do. Lastly, second last is what we call as a special project. A special project requires some primary function, and it is also for a short duration. And one thing you have to do over here that this particular project is given to a person or a unit, that is a person or a department. They have to finish it. For example, if somebody is basically trying to create a computer lab within a department, then that becomes a special project to be completed, and it will be done by either one person will be in charge of it or the whole department will be in charge of it. The most important type of project is the matrix project. And the matrix project, we're going to discuss it in detail later on, that it requires a variety of units. That is, it requires multiple units of our department to come together and utilize their resources to achieve a particular output. The best example I can give you of a matrix evaluation that you can easily understand, that NED University being a particular organization which has multiple departments, if the idea is to ensure that the university become the best university within Pakistan, that each department have to put down their resources, have to put down their thinking and thought process to come up with a methodology to make the university the best university in Pakistan. In that way, when you construe that particular type of team together, that is a blend of all the departments within the university, and all of them are working towards one goal, then this will be a very good example of a matrix organization or a matrix project. I just lost your video again, so I'm not sure. I'm not seeing anybody right now. Let's talk about what is project management. Now that we understand what is a routine work, what is operation, what is a project, and what is a program. Now we are going to concentrate on what is project management. Now it has two words. Project that we already understood, and then the second part is management. What is management? How do you going to manage a project? In order to manage a project, you need various type of knowledge, various type of skill set, various type of tools, various type of techniques. So we define project management as the application of knowledge, certain knowledge, and we can tell you what knowledge is there to do or manage a project. It has a certain skills that is needed. It has certain tools that have to be applied. There are certain techniques that we use. And the idea of utilizing, applying this knowledge, the skills, the tools, and the technique to all project activities so that we can meet or exceed the stakeholder needs. What does it mean? It means that the overall goal of project management is to meet and exceed stakeholder needs and expectations that is defined from the project. So whenever a project is laid down, as I said, a project will always have a very clear direction, what they want to achieve, the goal. The project management ensures that that goal is met, and not only met, in most cases they want to exceed that requirement that was laid down. The matrix that are laid down, the scale on which they will be gauged, they want to exceed from that. So a project management is basically nothing but a set of rules, a set of skill set, a set of knowledge, a set of tools, a set of techniques combined together, utilized to achieve the project, to complete the project, so that the project can be completed in a certain time, within certain budget, and most importantly, it meets or exceeds the shareholder need. Most importantly, if you look at it, the project management is about balancing. It's a balancing act. What does it mean, a balancing act? Remember that project is a combination of time, cost, quality, and scope. And we'll define each one of them right now. When you write a project, when you start a project, you will first ask what you want to do. So take any example and say, I want to create a new, I want to construct a new building within let's say civil department. Now, reason becomes, what is the need for this new building? We'll define the need and the scope. And what is the scope? How big will be the building? Then we'll define how quickly do you want it? When do you need it? That's a time. Next, we're going to define what is the cost? How much money can we spend to make this building? And last thing that we will consider is the quality of the building. What is the quality? What quality we're going to see that this is what we want? So a project will define by a scope what you will be doing and what will you not be doing. For example, we will say we're going to use the regular KSC electricity rather than using solar power panels and to provide electricity for the rooms. Now, you have just defined a scope. You're saying you will not going to do energy saving and you are not going to do solar panels specifically. But you will going to take the grid power to run your machinery and to power the building. That is a part of the scope. The stakeholder have certain expectation. That is, the person who is paying for all this will have certain expectation from the building. They want the rooms to be big enough. They want to ensure that is it going to house the laboratories, then it will have everything that is required for the laboratory. And finally, it has requirements and expectations. Now, there is a difference between requirement and what we call as unidentified requirements. A requirement is basically a set that you definitely want to have. There is no excuse, there is nothing you're going to avoid them. You have to have them. So your have to have type of scenarios are in your requirement. Then there is something known as expectation, unidentified requirements. These are something that you will say, well, if you can have this, it will be great. That's the word you're going to use. It's not my requirement, but if you're going to have it, it will be great. So it's a thumb up type of scenario saying that if you do it, that will be great, but minimum, I want this. So if you can make me a 15 room in 15 million, that will be my requirement. But if you can make me 25 room in 15 million, you just have just overdone yourself. You have just completed an unidentified requirement. You have basically given me a great expectation. So that's a project management is basically balancing these things. It's a tool. It's a methodology that we're going to learn right now. How do you going to ensure that the scope is not broadened so that you cannot do it? How do you ensure that the times are not lost so that you are not overboard? How do you ensure that the money that you are spending can be saved rather you are over budget? So you don't want to over budget yourself. How do you ensure that the quality is met? All these are done through project management. All these are done by using processes that we have identified earlier to ensure that these can be handled carefully. Now let's define the context. The context is defined with respect to project management in two different ways. A project management can be viewed as what we call as a project life cycle and can also be viewed as a project management life cycle. If you read the slide said that the project life cycle describes what you need to do to work on the project. That is, what is the minimum thing you have to do to ensure that the project will go. Describe what you want to do. On the other hand, if you read the project management life cycle, it is a little bit different and a little bit broader definition. It describes what needs to be done, number one, to manage the project, and it also follows all the project management processes groups. That is, it contains, it's one thing that is taking care of each and every type of management processes. And some of the management processes we're going to discuss in the next 4 or 5 slides from here onwards. So remember this, there are two basic project management concepts. Number one, project life cycle, and number two, project management life cycle. Specifically, if you have some mechanical engineers over here or the industrial engineers, they will learn that in the new product development cycle, one of the most important area that we are doing nowadays is project life cycle. And in order to do a better management of such type of product, new product development, we are basically ensuring that we know how to manage the life cycle. And in this case, the life cycle has 4 or 5 steps. So, what is a life cycle? Life cycle is defined by 4 basic steps. It starts always by defining the project. Then we plan the project. Then we execute the project. And finally, we deliver the project. So there are basically 4 steps of our project life cycle. Let's discuss each one of them in detail. So the first one is project life cycle. What we have to do is defining the project. Oh, by the way, sitting down so far away, sometimes it's very difficult to communicate it, because one of the things I definitely would like to do is to have engagement from the audience. Rather than me giving a monologue, I definitely want to have a dialogue. So if you have questions, please feel free to shoot. If you want me to give some different examples, let me know, raise your hand, and I will be happy to redo these things. So let's define the first thing, how you define the project. Now, projects are always defined by a goal. So you take an example. Anybody, maybe this won't be a bad idea. Anyone of you want to say a particular project? Name a particular thing that you really want to do. Anyone? Somebody is raising hand. Can you please check it out?
I'd like to build a refinery one day.
Okay, great. Great. You want to have a refinery. Okay? So, let's define the goal. What will be the goal of this refinery will be? Alright? The goal of this refinery will be to ensure that we can produce enough, refine enough petroleum to supply within a particular community or supply to within a particular area. Alright? So you put down a goal which is realistic. A realistic goal is a goal in which you will going to say that I will not going to supply the refined gasoline to all over the world, but we're going to concentrate in the lower half of Pakistan, or maybe we're going to take care of the 5% or 2% of whatever Pakistan oil needs are. So you have to have a realistic goal, because the bigger the goal will be, the more money it will be. So you need to start with a very definite goal. Next thing you have to do is you're going to lay down your specification. The specification in this case will going to start from what it will take me to create this refinery. So what type of lubricants, what type of petroleum products will be refined through this particular my particular refinery. So those will be my specification. How many diesel, how many how many gallons of diesel I'm going to create, refine? How many gallons of no, I'm sorry that I can't remember some of the type of petroleum that are sold in Pakistan, but I can tell you in USA we have the three different kinds. So those three different kinds from the ethylene from 84, 92, and 97. What type, how many of them will be created? So you have to create this specification document. You need to know how it will be done. Then by defining this thing, we're going to create tasks. We'll say, okay, in order for us to do this thing, we need to make sure that we have a land, we have a very good intake of crude oil coming from somewhere. We need to ensure that we follow the policies and procedure of the state or the province we are in, and also the federal level. So what we're going to do is to create these tasks, and these tasks will going to be given to certain people, and these tasks will become their responsibilities. So we'll start from saying that, okay, there will be somebody who will be one person in charge or responsible for making sure that we are going to have crude oil coming in or imported from the other countries. We are going to have one person or one division in charge with the responsibility that they will going to talk to the federal government and the state on the provincial government to ensure that all the rules and regulations, policies are taken care of. Then we're going to have another team or organization who will be in charge of construction. Then we will have another team who will be in charge of other activities that are involved. So what you are doing in defining the project, you will say, okay, in order for us to do this, these are the number of tasks, high-level tasks. By the way, we are not going into the nitty-gritty things. We are only going to the high level. Say, we are not saying that, okay, which country we are going to go after to get the oil. No, we are not doing that. We are saying we need something. What are the options, and these options will be done by one person or one individual, or a whole department will be responsible for doing it. So we define the goal, we define the specification, we create tasks, and then we assign responsibilities. That's the first task. The second task will be planning. Now this is where you have to spend a lot of time. You have to plan things in such a way so that you will ensure that there will be a success at the end of the game, rather than there will difficulties. So you will ensure that you put down all the difficulties inside, all the successes inside from your past experience, and then come up with a plan document. What is this plan document will going to contain? In the example of your refinery, it will include a schedule. The schedule will tell us that the unit or the department who was in charge of getting all the government rules and regulation and policies created will going to start and finish their job at a particular day and time. Those will be the schedule. It will also tell that the person in charge of the construction will going to start the construction on a given day and end up in a given day. It will also create the schedule for those people who will be creating the specification documents and trying to ensure that once the refinery is intact, the oil can be sold to the local. So those are all schedules that are created in the planning document. The second thing we create in the planning document is what we call as a budget. Each and every activity or task that I have just described to you in defining and in the planning will going to involve money, going to involve some money that have to be spent. We have to budget them. We need to upfront do the budgeting. Now, budgeting is not that you will going to put down the exact numbers over there, that this is the only amount I'm going to do. A budget is a approximation. Based on your past experiences, you will have approximation of how much amount of money should I going to lay away for a particular task. So, for example, in USA, when we are constructing a industrial building, we know that the cost of the industrial building is nowadays 150 to 180 dollars per square foot. Now that is a ball figure. A ballpark figure is going to be used to create budgets, but there are also some good techniques available over there that will help us to create these budgets. Then we're going to identify our resources. Who are going to need to do these things? Which contractor will going to hire? What construction companies will going to go? Who will going to construct us these things? What type of manpower will going to we will going to bring in? All these are resources. So we need to identify people who are going to actually perform these tasks. So what will be the name of the person who will be going and be finalizing all the policies and documents from the federal government, so that we have a legal way of constructing the building. We have a legal way to importing the crude oil and all those things. So the resources means from here, it means actual name of people or the team who will be involved in doing that. Finally, this is the another place where we're going to do two most important things. Number one is we're going to do the risk assessment over here. Nothing in this world it will be done in the way we plan it. You plan to go to the moon, and when President Kennedy put down this notion back in 1962 or 60, one of the biggest challenges that USA was facing at that time, that we didn't have a portion where we didn't have the enough manpower or the technical skill set needed for us to take the rocket out of the space, Earth out back to the moon. So one of the things everybody was concerned about, what is the risk in doing that? Every project has a risk. Every project has its own risk. We need to make sure that we can manage that risk. Remember, we cannot avoid risk. You manage risk. There will be problems. Problems will going to happen. There will be issues that will be raised. There will be things that are done totally in a different way than you have planned. You need to have a management plan to avoid them, to make sure that if you are in trouble, how to get yourself out from trouble. Those are risk assessment and risk management techniques that you learn and conduct in a project. And finally, once you have created the resources, you now are going to hire people, staff people. And we're going to learn later on that a project is defined by a good project is defined by two things. Number one, a good leader, and number two, good staff. If you don't have a leader and a staff, no matter how great a project is bound to fail. So remember, in planning, this is the place where we're going to see once the building is erected, once we have all the things laid down, once we have the refinery in working condition, what are we going to do to make sure that it continuously runs? We are going to have staffing for it. Let me give you a basic example of the time when I was growing up over there in Karachi. The biggest thing at that time in Karachi with respect to mechanical engineers was to go and work at Pakistani Steel. And one thing, once in the late 70s, when they started the foundries and everything over there in the steel mill, they were trying to recruit engineers, young engineers who can go and to learn the techniques from Russia to how to manage the plant, how to run the plant. And the staffing that was done at that time, they were used to hire engineers, they used to train them first in-house in Karachi, and then they used to send few of them out to Russia for training. The idea is that once you are doing that, you are ensuring that once these trained people come back, they will be able to run the plant effectively, run the mill effectively. So staffing is very, very important. If you fail to do good staffing, you're done. You're doomed. You are as good as, remember, you are as good as the weakest link you are. So if you have a team, the team is as strong as the weakest player in the team. That's how strong your team is. So make sure when you are staffing, you staff correctly. You hire people who know what they are doing, who understand the project and project goal, who are going to devote their time and effort to ensure that the project is a success. The third thing which we do in project lifecycle is executing the project. So once we have defined it, once we have planned it, this is now the time to execute the project. What execution means that now you are going to say, okay, start digging the ground so that we can pour in the concrete and start building up this building, and then installing the machineries in it, make sure the erection is done correctly. We're going to test these things out, each and every part, make sure that crude oil is getting in, and make sure that the oil is going to is being clean and stuff like those. When this is happening, this is what execution means. When you are executing the project, there are certain things the life cycle asks you to do, or project management asks you to do. It asks you to create status reports. What is a status report? A status report basically tells you, is whatever you are producing, is it good enough? Is it what you want? So let's say if you are in Suzuki Motors, every day Suzuki Motors basically assemble X number of vehicles. Now when these vehicles get out, somebody near the end basically tests each and every part, tests each and every component, tests each and every aspect of the vehicle, making sure that it is great. But before you even do that, there is something known as a status report that is created while you are running the project. And what is these status reports? These are very simple reports that are passed on from the workers to the supervisor, from the supervisor to their manager, and from the manager to the vice president, and so on and so forth. That tells you how the project is performing. It is telling you how the project is performing. Is it performing as you have planned? Is it on time? Is it within budget? All these things are basically taken care of in the status reports. The other thing which we do in execution is that whenever we find problems, remember there was a risk involved in project management. Whenever we found problems, what we're going to do, we start changing things. And we say, okay, we need more people. The resources have to be improved. How are you going to do it? Change the resource plan quickly. Ensure that you can bring in new people. If you think that you are lagging in time, there will be a delay, so make sure that you can bring in more resources so that you can overcome that particular delay. If there are issues with the qualities, you will ensure that you have quality management plans over there that helps you to come out from those quality issues. And finally, one of the things you do in executing the project is what we call as forecasting. How do you forecast? How do you forecast that things will going to go right or wrong? So that's the forecasting portion in execution. You're saying with this pace in the project, will I be able to complete the project on time? That's the forecast. With this amount of money spent, will I be able to complete the project within the budget? That's what the forecast means. So once you have done the execution, it's time to deliver. It's time to give the brand new refinery to the owner. I forgot to ask the gentleman his name, to give him his idealized refinery. That's the delivery mechanism. But you cannot just give the product to the customer right there and then. Why? Because the customer is not ready. Why is not ready? Because he don't know how to run how to run this plant. You don't know how to run the refinery. So what you have to do first? You have to train the customer. You have to transfer all the documents that you have created and all the policies, documents that you have got signatures from the mayor to the chief minister. You have to ensure that you are releasing the resources and the staff at the right time. And finally, the most important thing you are going to do while delivering is to ensure that the lessons learned are passed on. What are lessons learned? See, every time when you do certain things, just like your mom and dad keep telling you, don't do this and don't do that. These are the type of lessons learned. When you see a child playing with a match, you're saying, don't play with the match, you can burn yourself. Burning is thing that the kid have not experienced yet, but because you have experienced the burn, you are letting the kid know not to indulge himself or herself in this particular activity of playing with matches. That's the lesson learned that is passed from you to the kid. Similarly, when you are running the project, when you are executing the project, you will learn several things about the product. The product will be the oil, the gas that you will be producing. You will learn several things and you will document those things in a lesson learned. This is your experience that you are going to pass on to the customer. That customer, when we were running it, we saw these problems. So this is how we solved them. So it will help you next time when you find the same problem, you can solve it in the same way. So it's a very good way of passing on the experience. Nowadays there is a whole courses and knowledge area that revolves around learning organization that basically dealt with what we call as lessons learned. There's a thing known as learning organization learning from their own mistakes, organization learning from their own success, organization learning from other people's success. This is all lessons learned. But in project management, the delivery mechanism contains a document known as the lessons learned, which contain all the experiences the project manager have while they were running the project or monitoring the project or executing the project. So up to now, what we have done, we have explained what is a project, what is a program, what is the difference between program and project, what are the different types of project, and what are the different contexts of a project. And we define four different methods, four different steps or stages of a project lifecycle. Now what we're going to do, we're going to see how to implement a project management plan or project management itself. How do you implement it? So, very common scenario that we're going to see everywhere in every organization, either it is a university environment or it is a business environment. Everywhere we find this issue. What is the issue? That everybody say that project management is not for me, or it's not good for my organization, or my organization don't need project management. Or project management are for big companies. I will say for all these questions, the answer is no. Project management can be for every organization. Project doesn't need you to be a very huge organization of 10,000 and plus people. No. Project management basically helps you to ensure that you will finish up a task, an unrepeated task, effectively, and that's what it's all about. You will see that we start things and we never finish. Project management, if we follow project management techniques, we will ensure that a task starts and then it will end. That's the most important thing. Not only start, but it will also end. So how do you implement project management? The project management implementation basically depends upon organization type. Remember, it depends upon the organization type. It doesn't say that it will not going to be implemented on one organization or the other. What is organization type? And we're going to discuss this thing a little bit in detail right now. Basically, there are two different basic type of organization. One what we call as a functional or traditional organization, and the other one on the other side is known as projectized organization. Implementation of the project management basically is defined by where and what type of organization structure a company has. A company can have a pure traditional functional organization structure. A company can have a pure projectized organization structure. What is those two types? Let's see this particular chart, and you'll see this is very common. When I was there in Pakistan way back in the 80s and late 80s, I can remember that majority of our organizations in Pakistan were traditional organizations. Whether it is on a university level, whether it was at that time NEDA Motors, or it was the Bedford truck plant over there, or Pico, or Steel, Pakistan Steel, all of them were following the traditional organizational structure. What is the traditional organizational structure? By the way, I lost Karachi. I lost your video. So what is a traditional organizational structure? A traditional organizational structure basically is layered structures. The boss is way at the top. The CEO, the chief executive officer, is way at the top. Then we have divisions. We have engineering, operations, finance, and so on, marketing, and others. So all these are our divisions. Then we have departments. Within each division, we have certain departments. Every department will going to have sections. Every section will have various functional responsibilities. These will be individuals who will be performing certain tasks. This is a very, very heavy-handed traditional organization structure, where everything has to pass through this big guy. He has to pass on all the information, and from here, when it reaches the trenches, that is when it reaches the person who has to really perform, lot of the stuff is lost. Whatever his vision was is lost when it comes over here. It never reaches here, because he will direct these guys will direct the department will going to direct the sections, and from there it will going to go to the person. So there is a lot of layers in it. So a lot of things are lost. This is a traditional organization. Now, here is the other side. This is the projectized one. So this is also known as pure product organization. What is a pure product organization? In this one, we have a main manager who is responsible for few products, not a lot of products, not every product in the company, but few products. So, for example, you are in what is the name of? I should have done a better job in remembering some of the old names from Pakistan companies. Let's say you are a Toyota over here. Within Toyota, you have Camry, you have Civic. Okay, so these are products. Product A can be Civic, product B can be Camry. Now, each one of them will going to have their own engineering and own manufacturing. Each one of them can have their own engineering and own manufacturing. The good thing about this is that this is a line authority. What does line authority mean? It means that this guy knows who he has to report to. Because this is all related to one product, Camry, they all can communicate very well about this particular product. They can communicate, the manufacturing can communicate with the manager, the engineers can communicate with the managers. The good thing is that if anything goes wrong over here in manufacturing, which is due to the engineering problems, they can react very quickly. They can talk to each other very quickly. The timing is very flexible. The cost is very flexible. And they can eliminate a lot of trade-offs very quickly. So in the pure product cycle or pure product organization, you are living with a small product, and every product is its own identity. So everybody is there for each other. However, there is a problem over here. If you look at it, see, this is Camry and this is Civic. And both of them are cars, both of them are sedan, 4 doors. Okay? So both of them are going to have very similar issues. Both are going to have a fender. Let's say an issue comes in the manufacturing of a Civic in fenders. The Camry can also witness the same issue. In a pure product organization, there will be repetition of work. The manufacturing side of the Civic will be doing the similar manufacturing as the Camry side. So there is no interaction between product A and product B. They are totally separate. There is no communication with. Biggest problem for individuals, specifically engineers, in this type of organization is there is no career growth opportunities. When you look at this, you're going to say that if you are an engineer under manufacturing, there will be also an engineer under engineering. They will be designing it and you will be manufacturing it. But what is your career growth? You can go either become a product manager, and once you are there, only one person can take that position. There will be 2 project managers. So this career growth in these type of organizations are very low. And that's why majority of the control is still with our general manager over here. He is controlling everything. Or she is controlling, sorry. She might be, general manager might be a she, so she might be controlling everything. So this is a pure product organization. So let's recall, this is a traditional where we have divisions and then we have pure product. Here is the one that is liked by project management personnel. This is what we would like to see. The first company in the world that started this type of organization structure was Toyota Motor Company. TMC, way back in the late 70s, started what they call as the Toyota Production System. And one of the forte or the niche about the Toyota Production System was their matrix organization. A matrix organization is a very beautiful type of organization that try to eliminate things that went wrong over here, that is repetition of work, lack of growth, no interactions. It tried to remove all these type of scenarios by addressing it very differently. Look at the same scenario. We have a manager, general manager, and the general manager have various divisions, engineering division, operations, finance, marketing, and so on and so forth. And apart from that, a general manager also have various project managers. And this is where the project management manager comes in. The project manager, each one of these project managers is responsible for their own project. Just like over here. Product A manager is responsible for product A, product B will for product B, and so on and so forth. Here too, the same thing. But what is the difference? The difference is that the project manager is taking his staff or her staff from engineering, operation, finance, and other departments. He's taking these staff from them. So it's just like saying, can you sublet me engineer number 1 from engineering, from operation, one person from operation, one person from finance, and he's building his own team to perform his tasks of project. So what he's doing over here, he's instead of basically creating his own staff, he's lending his staff. He's asking people to give his staff to him. Now there is a 2 type of scenarios over here. The project managers are responsible for the project. And these are the functional department, engineering department, operation department, finance department. These are functional department. So it creates 2 types of managers. The functional managers and the project managers. The functional managers are the managers who will be leading engineering, who will be leading operations. The functional managers will also be leading finance and other departments. And on the same time, the project managers are basically not managing anybody. They are basically getting some people from various departments and building a small team to work on the project. So there is a big issue also with this, and we discuss this thing. There is an issue on this because now you have two bosses. If you are working with operations as an engineer, engineering operation, then one of your boss will be the functional manager, who is the manager of operation. And then if you are working under project manager X, then project manager X is also your boss. So one person is being in charge or is being bossed by two people. So how do you take care of this? We were going to use in the matrix organization a blended environment, and we'll talk about how we'll take care of the issue of two bosses. A matrix organization is a weak matrix organization is also known as the functional organization. A strong matrix organization is known as projectized organization. Recently, the most important work is being done in the area of project office. That's a new concept in project management. Every new company and every old company in USA is trying to move towards project office concept. And in this one, we don't have time to discuss this thing in detail, but if we have time, we can do it in the end of the third lecture. We'll talk a little bit about what is a project office, which is getting popular all over the world nowadays. So let's see, how do you challenge? What are the challenges of project management? Now, project management has various challenges. Most of these challenges lie with the project manager. The project manager has to do various things. The biggest thing he or she has to do is to marshal all the resources for the project. That he is the only one who will be controlling every resource that is there in the project. If it is money, if it is manpower, he is or she is the only person who will be controlling it. A project manager has to be a leader because he has to provide direction. He needs to coordinate and he has to work with project teams. So if you cannot lead, you cannot do these things. Project manager, one challenge is that project manager has to manage people from various groups, various stakeholders. See, a project is going to have various stakeholders. A stakeholder is different than a shareholder. Shareholder means that I've been involved in certain things and I have a share in it. Stake is that I have a stake in it, whether you like it or not, you have to provide me. So because there are various type of people working together, managing them become a very, very difficult job. On top of it, a project manager is not a very technical person. So he depends upon or she depends upon others to answer any technical question. And finally, a project manager is responsible for the performance and the success of the project, which is a huge thing. Nobody else is responsible but one person, which is the project manager. If the project fails, the project manager is responsible. If it is successful, the manager is responsible. So this is important that we want to get the right person or the right people at the right time to address the right issue. And the most important thing in order to do that is to ensure that we get the right decision. Now, I again lost Karachi's video. I'm going to leave this slide for later. Let's talk about quickly what are the social and technology issues that relates to project management. And this is very important for all of us to understand that this is what we call as the art of project management. This portion is the art of project management. What is the art of project management? Art deals with social aspect, the human and human nature. A successful project is only as good as the individual and leaders who are managing it. Is a very important statement that you have to remember. And again, a project can be anything. You have to remember the project manager have to be an individual who can lead, who should be a leader. And once you are a leader, you have to learn how to manage. So we have already talked about certain project manager skills in the previous slides. Let's move on a little bit to see what are the management responsibilities. And again, this management responsibilities that we are talking about are related to project manager, but it can relate to any manager. Okay, it can relate to a functional manager also. One of the things that the manager have to do is to control. What does control mean? That is, in controlling, they are trying to find and measure processes. They want to evaluate what remains to be done. So they want to say, okay, where we are in the project, where we're supposed to be in the project that was planned, and if we are ahead or behind the project schedule, how can we make corrective actions based on what we see? This is what we call as controlling. The controlling means that you are basically saying that I was supposed to finish up as of January 27th. I was supposed to make sure that the building is intact over there for my refinery. So the building has to be erected. If the building is not erected as for today's concern, then I have to find what is the corrective action I have to take to ensure that this can be done quickly as possible. That is what controlling means. So a manager or a project manager need to know how to control the project. The second thing they have to do is to do directing. That is, directing means implementing and carrying out all the approved plans that are necessary to achieve the objective. So in directing, one of the things that they have to do, that they have to show that, okay, I have 5 plans that is given to me by the structural engineer. I have 2 plans that were given to me from the architect. I want to ensure that I follow through. I have to make sure that I follow whatever is written in those plans. Exactly. Because those is the guarantee. Those plans are my warranties for success. So a project manager or a manager need to know how to direct, how to implement and carry out approved plans. Next, a project manager should know how to delegate, how to assign work, how to give responsibility to other people, how to make sure that everybody in that project team are working. Every team member have equal amount of workload. This is delegation. A delegating responsibilities is one of the essential management responsibilities. A good project manager is a motivator. He motivates to fulfill individual needs. So everybody at one day at a time is not motivated to do things. It's a duty of the project manager to motivate his team. That can be done through counseling. So if you have a problem with a personal problem with a team member, you don't just shout on them on a public playground or in public. You need to make sure that the privacy is there. You need to take that person out. In private, you need to do some counseling. And the last thing of management responsibility is coordinating. How do you work with respect to activities so that in relation, the most important activity needs to be done first. The second priority have to be taken off the next, and so on and so forth. That's coordinating. Activity in relation to their importance. What is important? Which one is more important than the other? You have 5 tasks to perform. Which one is more important? That's coordination. You need to ensure that you have a good coordination. So a project manager has to make sure that these responsibilities need to be made. For example, it is very important to decide on issues. Okay, whenever you are making decision, it is very important to decide. It is important to decide, not to decide. It is better to decide quickly rather than wait for data to arrive. So that's why it is said, even if you are 10% wrong, go ahead and decide. Don't think that you are going to always make the correct decision. No, there won't be any correct decision in the world. There is a decision that is made at a given time, and that's the best decision. And then basically you go back and see what was the consequence of my decision, and then you make corrective actions. But you have to make a quick decision, and that's a manager's responsibility. All the directives have to be effective when they are, we call it KISS, which is keep it simple, stupid. That is, all the directives have to be very, very simple, that everybody can understand it. Don't relate that if somebody is obedient to you, they are respectful for you. This is the thing to do with respect. In project management or in anything, respect is one thing that you can show to others, but the most important thing is obedience to the project. How are you lining up yourself with the project? And that's why it is very important that we all remember that as a manager, we never issue an order that we cannot enforce. A good manager will not going to issue any order that he or she cannot enforce. So a project manager or a manager is an enforcer of his orders. You make sure when you pass on some judgment, you make a decision, you stick with it. You cannot go back to and 2 and 4 and say, okay, I'm going to not do this, I'm going to do that, the guy will going to have some issues later on. No, there's nothing like that. You made a decision and you stick with it. You have to make a good decision. Remember that you can spend more time in making a good decision. That's another scenario. But once you made a decision, you stick with it. Motivation is a human behavior, and when project managers and managers are involved in motivating people, it is one of their essential duties to motivate people. But they have different type of people. The theory, human theory, behavior theory suggests that there are 2 types of workers. We call them theory X worker and theory Y worker. And this is a very important thing. I want the students to concentrate over here for a minute and try to think about which category they belong to. Every one of us will belong to one category, or they think about the others to belong to one of these categories. If we cannot put ourselves in one category, we will definitely put the other in one of those 2 categories. The theory X suggests that workers are inherently lazy and require motivation to perform jobs. Okay? So this is basically saying that all workers in the world are lazy. They don't want to work, they just want to get paid. They don't want to work full time, they want to pay part time, but they want to get paid for fully hours of work. And all the time when they will work, they require certain type of motivation. And we'll talk about what type of motivation theories are there. The other one says that theory Y workers. The theory Y workers are basically the willful workers. They are always ready to work. They are always there. They are very happy when they arrive at work. They are always very motivated, and they require very little or no supervision. They know what they have to do. They have a goal in their life. They are very highly motivated individuals. This is the 2 type of workers that are there. And when I told you that there are always 2 bosses when you are working, one will be the project manager and other will be a functional manager. In a project organization, you will always have 2 managers, project manager as well as the functional manager. So here is the issue. When you are working with 2 managers, the workers will find that the manager will treat them as theory X, while the project manager will always treat them as theory Y. It's a very, very common scenario. If somebody is interested, I can show you my research on this thing. That everywhere I went to talk to the workers, to talk to the management, I will always see this thing that a person who is working with 2 bosses, he will always say that, my functional manager, my department head is always think that I don't know anything. I'm a very lazy person. But, I'm working with this project manager on this individual project. And man, he thinks so highly about me. He always come and ask my ask my opinions about things. So I love working with this project manager. Very, very common scenario. That's where the trouble with us is when we are managing these type of people. Manager have to motivate, and that's where the big question comes. How do you motivate? You motivate by making other people be proud of something or be satisfied by something. I'm proud that I'm an NEDian, for example, that made me to stay up late and be at 12, it's midnight over here, to be here and do this because it made me pride. It's an honor for me. But for the worker, the manager have to make them feel proud of themselves, make them to be proud of things that they are doing. And that will come by ensuring that whatever they are saying, there is an approval for it. Whatever, if they are doing good things, they are being recognized. If they have done good things, they are not only recognized, but they are promoted. So all these things are laid out and very carefully in a management plan, so that the workers know, the engineers know, the junior managers know that how they will be promoted, how they feel good about the organization. The second thing which is important with project managers is what we call as time management. Time is very hard to find in project. You see over here, this gentleman is looking at this time. I lost the video in Karachi again. This gentleman is looking for the time because that's the hardest thing to be found in any project. But the most effective project managers basically convert time into a resource, and they can convert this constraint of time into a resource by doing time management. How do they do that? See, all the time manager will say that we are understaffed and we need overtime so that our workers can work. Okay? If we can do a good delegation of work, we can do a better time management. Biggest problem for the project managers are that they can't say no. If the general manager asks them to do certain things and they have a lot of other work available with them, they will still say, yes, I'll do it. And that's a very big time robber. That not saying no is a big time robber. Employees' problems are the employees' problem. They are not your problem. Remember that. We can link to them, we can understand their problem, but again, eventually these are problems for the workers. It's not your problem. And that's why it is important that we try to get away from what we call as time robbers. What are time robbers? If you are doing your incomplete work day in and day out, that's a time robber, because one day you have to take all the incomplete work and complete it. So you have just been robbed of the valuable time that you were supposed to do something else, but now you are indulged in completing the incomplete work. Anytime you do a poor job, this is a time robber. You doing a poor job is a time robber, because next time you have to redo the same work. Most importantly, a poor communication is a big time robber. You don't understand what the other guy is saying. Here's a big one. It's a big time robber. No matter what you do, no matter what I'm saying, it's not being understood by you. It's a big time robber, because now I have wasted my 1.5 hours over here and I didn't pass my concept. Uncontrollable phone calls, emails, meetings, these are all time robbers. And a good project manager and managers basically avoid these things. And I go up to this point and say, everybody, whether they are worker or a manager, they have to, if you are a student, avoid these things. You are the engineer, do incomplete job. You are the student, do a poorly done job. You communicate poorly. We've had so many phone calls and so many text messages going on. These are all time robbers. Try to avoid them. Conflict. That's a very big thing. A project manager is a conflict manager. They try to avoid and eliminate conflict between people. It's a very common saying that when researchers talk to each other, both of them understand each other perfectly. This means there is 100% understanding going on. But when a researcher talks to a manufacturing guy, they only understand 50% of each other. However, when a researcher talks to a salesperson, there is a 0% understanding going on in between them. However, a project manager has to talk with all of them. So think about it, how difficult it is for project manager to understand each one of them. That's why we call that the project managers are situational leaders. They know how to avoid conflict, and they avoid conflict by doing what we call as conflict resolution. And there are five types of conflict resolutions. And I'll give you a very good example, and we'll move very quickly. One is known as confrontation. Confrontational conflict manager is that you have a problem with somebody else. If both of you come on the table and say, let's talk about it, you're confronting the problem. You're confronting the conflict, and you're trying to come up with a solution. That's confrontation. The compromise, on the other hand, is saying that, we are on the table, let's talk about it, let's find a way so that we can compromise. So what you are doing, that engineers who have issues with each other are coming together and trying to solve the issue and trying to understand each other. This is a compromise. This is the best way of conflict management. That you sit down on a table and try to talk about your conflict and come up with a compromise. When compromise fails, then we have what we call as facilitation. Facilitation is basically manager will sit down in between the two parties who have conflict and will listen to each other. But he will try to say, you've been arguing of 5 different points, and up to now you have reached 3 agreements. There are only 2 points left. Why don't you just talk about it and resolve them? So what the project manager is doing is trying to facilitate a compromise. He's trying to facilitate a place where he don't have to make a decision. He's still leaving it up to the two parties, the two engineers, the two workers who are in conflict to talk to each other and resolve it. Because once facilitation fails, next we come to what we call as a forcing. And forcing is not good. Forcing is the one where the manager has to take a decision and we're going to say one party is right and the other party is wrong. So one party is going to win, another party is going to lose. Not a good situation. The guy who is going to lose will going to have not a very good reasoning to basically do to ensure that this guy, the project manager, is a good conflict manager. He is going to always have a bad taste in his mouth. And finally, when even force is not going to resolve the conflict, we go into what we call as withdrawal. What is withdrawal? We'll say, we know the problem is there between the workers. We know the problem is there between the engineers. We know that these two guys cannot talk to each other. That's fine. We just live with this thing. We withdraw, project manager just withdraw himself or herself from the situation. It's a very, very wrong thing to do. Because now you're saying that problem is there and I'm not going to solve it. But it does happen. It will, most of the time, it will going to happen. So, what we end up with doing is, how do you define finally, what is project management success? How do you define the success and the failure of a project? We have gone through how the management plays its role in doing a good project. What are the steps that are needed in a good project? Now finally, what do you call as a success of a good project management? So it is defined in 3 different terms. If you complete a project within time, within budget, and it is performing as intended, then it is a successful project. So a successful project is a project which finish up on time, which finish up within budget, and finally it exceeds or met the expectation of the customer. which is basically the third part over here, performance. It performs very well with the customer needs and requirements. This is the basic definition of a successful project. However, there are other stuff too. And the other stuff is, what is the relationship between the team? How the team was working together? How cohesive was the team? What type of communication was the team having among each other? Were they fighting all the time? Were they cooperating all the time? How they were achieving the priority to achieve a priority achievement plan? What was their priority of achievement plan? Do they follow it? All those things are important and they are part to make a project successful. But the success of a project depends upon three things alone. Finishing of the project on time, finishing it within budget, and making sure that the end product deliverable of the project is something that is a requirement from the customer. How the project fail, or what are the causes of failure? Usually the projects fail because we didn't selected the right project to do. If I don't have the money, if I don't have the resources, and I went in to say that I am going to have a refinery done, maybe it's too big project for me. Might not be the gentleman who was there. But if I look at myself, I say, no, this is too big for me, I can't handle it. Maybe my age is like that. You are selecting the wrong person to lead. Very, very important. If you are doing a good job, you have to make sure that leaders are good. You are making sure that there is a non-supportive upper management is the basic cause of 90% of project failures. The project fails because the upper management is not supportive at all. And finally, we don't use management techniques. Some of the techniques that I have defined earlier, we basically don't finish those techniques, and that's how we finish up with the unplanned project termination. Now, I think in the last few years, you must have seen so many unplanned project termination in Pakistan from the coal mines that are there in Sindh, and the project started and ended. These are unplanned terminations, and these are all causes of failure. So last slide. What's the next step? The next step is that we're going to cover science of project management in our next session. We're going to learn how to apply this thing. So we're going to tell you some tools, some processes. We'll tell you some techniques that you can apply, and we'll use your project as a case to see how can we apply it. And in the last one, we're going to cover something very important to most of the engineers nowadays, that is Project Management Institute certification. Almost everywhere in the world, there are two basic projects. These two project management certificates are more important than anything else. And if you have these certifications with you, it is basically treated that you are the guru of project management. You know how to run a project. And I will show you how many people are there looking for, how many companies are there in the world who are looking for this type of talented people. And I know this room that I'm seeing is full of those type of people. Thank you, and I will open it for questions from you. And I don't have the video again.
Hello?
I have my project. I have been given a project by the teacher to make a car. So how can I manage it? Yes, a four-wheel car. How can I manage that? I can establish an industry now.
Absolutely. Remember when I started the talk about defining the goals, there is something known as scoping the project. This is a very good example. So in my next lecture, please bring this question again, and I can explain you what you can do and we cannot. But yeah, definitely you are not going to make the car. Let's be very honest. You will not going to do it. What are you going to end up doing? What you're going to end up doing will be defined by the goals that you're going to lay down. You put down certain goals that are defined by the scope of the project. So let me see. You will define your scope. They asked you to develop the car, but you will return within the document known as a scope document, and that the document will tell them, your instructor, based on the time I have, this is what I'm going to do, and 99.9% your instructor will agree to it, because what they are trying to see is that are you ready to take the next step? Do you have the capability of shrinking the project in such a way that can bring a definite goal, that can bring a definite scope, which is easily handled by you. So yes, what you have to do next is basically define a simple document, which is a do and don'ts. I will do this, and I won't be able to do this. This is a scope document, and I'll share with you next time how the scope document look like. And you create this document, and then you talk to your instructors and say, okay, this is I can do, and this is what I cannot do, and this is my reason why I can't do it. They might come back and tell you, no, you can do it, and here's what we can do to support it. You got my answer? I still lost the video. Assalamualaikum. I can't see you, by the way.
Thank you very much, sir, for your precious time. So would you prefer to take these courses? You mentioned PMP and CAMP right now as we are undergrads.
Yes, you can. Definitely. There is no excuse on not taking these courses. Inshallah, in March of this year, we will be launching our website, and in that website, we will have various courses, short-term courses that a student can register and take free of cost with us. So yes, these courses are available for undergrad students. There is no harm in taking these things. What you are doing is basically ensuring that you are getting a skill set which is required in the market. This is the skill set that the market requires. They encourage you to learn project management. They encourage you to understand what is the project management cycle. They encourage you to understand what is the project life cycle. So you need to know all these things. And hopefully, if you are in industrial manufacturing or mechanical, they have a course in mechanical. They used to have a course known as production system, where they used to teach the project life cycle. I'm not sure they're still there or not, but that's what when I was teaching at NED, that was there. But definitely, you can take these courses. The answer to your question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
The video is lost again.
Hello, sir. In the CEO slide you displayed, you displayed some attributes of the project manager. It said that a project manager hasn't. It is not necessary for a project manager to be technical. But
yes,
if this is the case, then he can be easily fooled around.
No. Let me tell you what it really means when we say that it might not be 100% technical. Remember, we started with the definition that a project will involve people from various skill sets. For example, what is your department, or which degree are you pursuing?
Automotive engineering.
Automotive engineering. So let's say eventually you will either be in a plant or you will be design. Okay, you can be only one of the two. So you are going to create your expertise being a designer or a manufacturer. So as a manufacturing engineer, let's say tomorrow you are made a project manager to come up with a new Camry design. Okay, so you are a project manager who throughout his life have worked on manufacturing side. You have very little knowledge of design, but because you already have a overall cover which says that you are an engineer, you have certain knowledge about design. Then we have marketing and finance. Then we have things like quality control. So you are an engineer, you are a manager, and you have a team, 1 person or 2 person from quality, 1 person or 2 person from design, 1 or 2 person from marketing, sales, and so on and so forth. and you are managing them. So you have certain aspects, the basic knowledge about things, but you don't have the expertise knowledge of marketing, expert knowledge of sales, expert knowledge of design. So that's where we say that you have to rely on other people's opinions. You have to trust them. You have to ensure that when you are hiring the right person, they are the right person because you will dependent upon them. You will depend upon their expertise. You will depend upon their judgments because you have to make a decision based on their expertise. So that's why we say that managers are not an expert of everything. Usually saying that I used to do in my classes, I said that project manager is a jack of all. You have to be first a good engineer first. That's a base knowledge. You have to have an engineering degree. That's a must thing. Beyond that is basically a skill set that you can develop. But a good project manager is a master of several things, but not one thing alone. So he's a jack of all, master of basically only one area on which he has obtained his degree. So you have to do, and that's where your management skill set come in. How are you staffing yourself? How are you selecting your team? Because your selection of team, as I told you, it will define how good your team is, how good decision that they can make, how technical sound they are. And based on that, your success will rely on those people that you hire. I again lost the video.
Hello, Assalamu
Alaikum.
Sir, as you said in your lecture that the success and failure of a project based upon the project manager. If he don't get the supporting staff or don't get the good from upper level, he don't support. He can't support. So still you blamed him.
No, see, I said a good project manager will going to ensure that they will going to have a successful project. So go back to the program. The success is defined by these three things: cost, time, and performance. The project managers will be judged based on have they completed the project on time, within budget, and with all the requirements that was necessary. If the project managers were not given support from the upper management, the project is destined to fail. The problem destined to fail means that it is not necessary that the blame will all come to the project manager. Blame will come to some of the project managers when we will review it. The review panel will not going to say that it is his or her responsibility. They will say it's the upper management non-supportive attitude that basically made this particular project a failure. And again, if as I said, these type of scenarios, if you look around yourself, there's tons and tons of cases that you will see in the newspaper, in magazine. It talks about several projects that never went anywhere. They started and they went down. And the biggest reason for them is that the management was not able, the upper management was not willing to support them. So once they take away the support, the project dies. Because there is no resources, nobody is going to be responsible about it, so they just dissolve the project. And that's where what we call as the unplanned project termination takes place. The project will go to terminate all of a sudden and we are done. So project managers in good companies will not be held accountable based on the non-supportive upper management attitude, which result in the unplanned termination of project. They will be held accountable on two things: why you are over budget, why you spend so much time. You supposed to finish 3 months in 3 months ago. You are not still finished. These are the things that the project managers are accountable for. I did lost the video. Hello?
Hello, Dr. Sohail. I'm Dr. Afzala.
Salim,
Thank
sir.
you
1 o'clock in the night is better. It's a bit late because in the morning you have to go back to work. Anyway, thanks a lot for this lecture webinar. And I'm grateful to you as well as the Washington DC for organizing this lecture. I understand this is a series of lectures that we are going to deliver. Students who are coming in and going out, mostly because of their, maybe because of they have got lectures. So I will ask the UFA who have basically organized this series of lectures with you that they to properly. I think one of the audience is that what I've noticed here is mostly undergraduates. I think we have to bring in the postgraduates as well because they will be more keen. And I think this particular subject topic is more related to the postgraduate or the final year. For first year, second year, especially first year, second year, it's a bit early to understand about this project, and maybe they might have found a little bit boring as well. Anyway, thanks a lot, Dr. Sohail. I look forward to your other lectures as well. And also I thank the NEDA in Washington for organizing this lecture. Thanks.
You're welcome, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Afzal. And Mustafa, if you are still there, would you please send me a copy of the students' email addresses and their names?
Yes, of course. We have already recorded all email addresses. I will send you right.
Okay. And our second lecture of this series will be on February 24th.
Yes, we already have the. We will try to include more from outside the university.
Yes, sure.
Make sure that if you guys have some suggestions, because I don't know the audience completely. It's very difficult for me to go back to my when I was growing up at NED and studying. If you have certain suggestions, what will help